manufacture rail wagons and provide other support services to ease the connection of the nation for efficient movement of the citizens and evacuation of our farm produce. We are also working with Chinese Engineering Corporation Company to remodel the current narrow gauge rail lines into standard gauge so as to fast-track the seamless transportation of people and goods. Distinguished Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, as we spend the next few hours deliberating and preferring solutions on the strategies for developing the continent's maritime endowments, I urge the presenters, discussants, and delegates to have an open mind in unraveling issues that hitherto limit us from repositioning our ports for competitiveness. Let me once again warmly welcome you, and I'm sure I did that yesterday, and wish you a nice day in Nigeria. God bless you.
So our chairman of session and Honorable Minister of Transportation, Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, has opened the session. We'll take the 3 presentations, as I said earlier. Thereafter, I'll invite him back on the podium with the discussants to discuss the presentations. So quickly, I switch gears now to the very first presentation in this session. From the Port of Antwerp International, please let's welcome Mr. Nico Vertooyen.
Excellency, dear guests, I would like to first of all thank you all for attending the conference, and thank very much to NPA to offering me the floor, and to IAPH to organize the conference. My name is Nico Vertooyen. I work for Port of Antwerp, more in particular for Port of Antwerp International, which is the agency covering international projects and relations, and I'm in charge of our Africa relations. I'll try to respect the timing, and I would like to propose you a presentation in 3 parts. I will tell you something about facts and figures, Port of Antwerp, because then you know our background and you know where it's coming from. Secondly, I would like to share some slides and ideas with you on Port of Antwerp International, and in particular our Africa ambitions and projects. And thirdly, as we are in session 4, I try to summarize some bullets of ideas, remarks, of comments, and also challenges which we learned in Africa in the past 10 to 15 years where we were covering projects. So this is the map of the Port of Antwerp, which is one of the largest port by surface in the world. And now this should, okay. We are located, as you might know, in the heart of Europe. I will not try to comment too much about this, but it is rather important for you to know exactly where to situate, of course, the Port of Antwerp, very well connected by rail, road, barge, and pipelines with the European hinterland. A particular case for the Port of Antwerp is we are a major gateway port. We are also a transshipment hub, but we are an international port on the river, 80 kilometers inland. So this is the location of the Port of Antwerp. The mouth of the River Scheldt is in the Netherlands. facts and figures. I try to summarize them in one slide. 223 million tons last year. The surface, as I mentioned, the TEUs we had, but then, which is more important than any figures, is the employment, the added value. We as Port Authority, we should really go for added value, and we are very proud with this up to 150,000 jobs and 900 companies in our port area. And when talking about the Port of Antwerp, we always mention the Port of Antwerp is three things. Of course, like any port in the world, it's all about handling cargo, of course. But it's also about logistics, logistic activity in and around the port, and it's also about industry. And these are three dimensions crucial for the development of the Port of Antwerp, crucial to develop ports, and we believe also crucial for ports in Africa for the future, not only focusing on cargo handling. Just one picture of logistic activities here in the Ro-Ro industry, and this is our main petrochemical cluster in the port of Antwerp. It's the biggest petrochemical cluster in Europe. What do we have in the Port of Antwerp? I'm also trying to summarize it in just one slide. 16 terminals on liquid bulk, 5 deep sea terminals for containers, 15 break bulk, dry bulk as well, of course. One of the biggest covered storage logistic areas in Europe, and you can see also on tank storage and silo storage. So this is the Port of Antwerp in facts and figures, where we come from. But more and more, industry and ports are also driven by sustainability and sustainable goals. We have to think about the future, and this is our 5 PPP program: people, partnership, prosperity, planet, and peace, and which is completely in the line with United Nations goals in that respect. Very important for us in Antwerp. Antwerp Port Authority is a landlord port, but we try to see each other, and we try to develop more and more from that landlord concept, and I will touch upon that later on. We see ourselves more today as a proactive facilitator with the city, with local and international authorities, with universities, of course, with our clients on of the private port sector, and we see ourselves as authority in the middle, which is a proactive role we'd love to take up, much more than just give the land into concession to private operators and cash in. This is a new role, a new dynamic approach we try to fulfill. So that was the first part, Port of Antwerp, facts, figures, who we are, what we do, and how we try to become a modern new port authority in Northwestern Europe. The second part, I would like to share you something about how we evolve in the world. The Port of Antwerp, as other ports, not to mention Rotterdam, is developing a strategy on a global level, and we created therefore the special purpose vehicle, which is called Port of Antwerp International, with multiple focus. It is consultancy, management, and also investment. The Port of Antwerp, through Port of Antwerp International, is also investing in port projects around the world. The Port Authority itself is investing in hinterland development projects, for instance in dry ports or logistic zones within our own hinterland. What we do is overseas, far away abroad. The Port Authority is investing in hinterland projects in Europe, let's say in the 350 kilometers around the Port of Antwerp. But Port of Antwerp International is doing it overseas. This is our international focus. We were founded, as you can read, about eight years ago. We are completely owned by the Antwerp Port Authority, so 100% public. We cover, as mentioned, consultancy services, but also management projects, and we are closely linked to our port training center, IAPH whom a few people here are familiar with, I guess. You can see that we are already covering a large part of the world. I would like to share a few of the projects with you. In the Middle East, we are investing together with a private operator in the port of Duqm in Oman. It's a greenfield project. Together, we own 49% of the project together with a private partner. We always invest in a PPP formula, always with private operators, always with people from the port business, and we take then often a minority stake in it. A second is a project we started 2 years ago in Brazil, the port of Açu, close to Rio. This is a huge industrial land development project with a port. It's the combination of the two which makes it a really interesting case for us, and also to learn about project development far away and share expertise of Antwerp, but also learn from the local experiences and local partners, which we can take in this global economy with us to other continents as well. But of course, we're in Africa, we're talking about Africa, and we have a strong focus on Africa. You can see the map and you can see the countries where we are active over the years. From Congo, where we started about 15 years ago, to other countries and ports all over the continent, also in Eastern Africa. Why is this strong focus on West and Central Africa? We are the #1 port in Europe. We are commercially driven to Africa. We have an interest, and we feel that this is a good approach. We feel we have to be here present on the continent because for many decades we are the #1 port in Europe for all African cargo, be it general, ro-ro, containers, forest products. The Port of Antwerp is very known to African clients, both northbound and southbound related. It is a growing percentage of our annual volume, so we have to follow that closely. And we have, due to that historical relationship with Africa, we have a large port cluster in Antwerp with Africa expertise and interest. That means that shipping lines, the port community, port operators, forwarders, we gather together every year on several occasions in Club Afrique. All these people have a big interest and a huge experience in doing business in Africa, and that is driving us towards projects and ports on the continent. And of course, as already mentioned, we work closely together with our training center, where many Africans have been passing in Antwerp at the IAPH courses. Okay, just to give you an idea about this position quickly, you see in red the Antwerp position on containers on your right-hand side, compared to other ports in Northwestern Europe. That clearly shows that we have a dominant position. Also on general cargo, on your left-hand side, you see in green, blue, the dominant position in relationship with other ports in Northwestern Europe. So we really feel that we have something to say and that we know something about Africa and African ports and business, port-related business. This is getting more. Okay, I will skip this one too because I'm having one eye on my time. This is one project. I would like to share a few words with you on Cotonou, because Neil already spoke about this morning. So one of the projects we have in Africa, which is crucial for us because it gives us additional value at the table. We are managing a port in Africa today, so we are not only familiar with Africa, we don't only have we do not only have a commercial approach, we do not only have African community and people working with us in Antwerp, we also have experience on the ground in Africa running the Port of Cotonou. Nele told you all about it this morning, the goals, the team, and the relationship we have with Antwerp. We are the back office of the Cotonou team, and we try to assist them where we can. For us, this is really a reference, and we hope to, together with the team in Cotonou, to make it a success in the years ahead. And then the third part of my presentation is, if I can, okay. I would like to share some of the ideas, some of the experiences around the continent and ports. Since in the new millennium, we witness, of course, in general, an economic growth. Things went well in Africa. International trade is developing. We see port volumes in general on the rise, both import and export. We have witnessed bigger size of vessels calling African ports, shipping lines going for economies of scale, bigger vessels coming. We have witnessed, of course, the impressive container terminal developments in the majority of the ports in the majority of the countries, and we also have witnessed an increasing role and position of China and the Asia-Africa trade, of course, because 15 years ago that was still much smaller. Today, we all know that China is the major stakeholder on the trade with Africa. So that are a few of the important trends we have witnessed, but we also see that the road transport infrastructure on the continent is still poor. Rail concessions are limited and the performance is low. Inland navigation, barges, which is, as I mentioned yesterday, up to 35% in the Port of Antwerp is in Africa, very limited. The cost of crossing cargo over the borders is still very high. The average, we notice a 40% loss in West African economies due to this bad infrastructure, according to the World Bank. So not everything is bright and shining. The weak inland economic penetration puts an increasing pressure on the cities and the coastlines. If you look at the map of the African continent and you see the drive of young people and populations towards cities, this is something we cannot neglect, even as people from ports. This is happening. I have 2 slides that left. So that brings me to some challenges. And okay, yes, container business, yes, but have we had enough attention for conventional cargo terminals? All these presentations, we're talking a lot about containers, but maybe we should also focus on other commodities than containers. As mentioned, impressive growth, new terminals, port developments in containers on the water side. But what about these landside transport corridors? They are not as much developed or not in balance with what happened on the seaside. We see a lot of, we talk a lot about cities and congestion in ports, and we in Europe, as Patrick knows very well, we are very much familiar with this port and city relationship because the unique shareholder of the Port of Antwerp is the city of Antwerp. And this is a tradition in Northwestern Europe. In Africa, on the other hand, this relationship is often weak, and cities are surrounding ports. But when you talk with managing directors of ports, they rarely talk and speak about the good relationship and close relationship with the city. It is a difficult relationship. It's our feeling between cities and ports in Africa, and I think this is one of the actions that could be taken to improve that. We feel that that could be an element of better development for African ports. Another item I'd like to share with you is this relationship. Port authorities, we are also a public authority, and we face very strong global players on the private terminal operator level. Are we sufficiently strong? Can we cope with that? Is this relationship sound, and do we have enough backing to go into this relationship when talking about public-private partnerships and so on? This is really something crucial, I feel. Talking about container terminal operators, it's also a fact that there are not a lot of them. So we see all the same players in every port, everywhere, which makes it also a very particular situation. Is there enough competition amongst the bigger container terminal operators in this part of the world and the market? Also, I'm a sociologist from background, and the port development, is it coming along with enough job creation? Because added value, as I mentioned in the beginning, is one of the main goals and tasks for a port authority to look after. Is there enough job creation with all these port developments for the people, especially young people, especially people coming to the cities and looking for jobs? Is there enough done? Is it possible to do more? And then finally, the three relationships in Antwerp, where we focus a lot upon, okay, port handling, fine, but logistics and industry, can we boost in the hinterland logistics? Can we develop projects along the transport corridors in order to create business, in order to create jobs in the hinterland, in order to create the economy, in order to permit African ports also to develop not only along the coastline, but also deeper in the country and towards the hinterland. I hope it was not too long. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Vitoeng. Thank you. Let's give him one more round of applause. Talking about their experience in terms of releasing potentials and the way forward. Okay, quickly we'll continue with the second presentation. We're going now to Eco SLC Trainer Africa on the Eco SLC project. Let's welcome Dr. Harry Baines Daban.
Honorable Minister, MD, Nigeria Ports Authority, National Port, Nigeria Ports Authority, all protocol observed. Good afternoon. As I looked at this conference's theme, African ports and hinterland connectivity, I thought, wow, this is splendid. There couldn't have been any good theme as this. But then also it raised some questions. I thought, what if the process of getting hinterland connectivity only extended and transferred environmental pollution from port areas onto the hinterland areas through the logistics and transport chain? And that is what I want us to talk about this afternoon. To draw our attention to the fact that the process is important, as has already been raised, that it is the key to unleashing Africa's potential, but then it has to be done sustainably. So we need to have sustainable African ports and hinterland connectivity. My presentation will therefore look at opportunities for ports, the significant kind of market growth that is emerging, its associated increase in environmental and financial risks, and then try to look at some solutions that are available and give some conclusions. To begin with, population has always been on the increase, and particularly from the 18th century till the 21st century, the world population hit the 7 billion mark. It is still expected to grow, and it is anticipated that by 2050, we would hit 9 billion. What is challenging is that as population is growing, consumption patterns are also growing. So production is also growing to meet these consumption patterns. If production comes up, the produce needs to be given or transported to the consumers. So this brings about the challenge for ports and transportation to increase their capacity to be able to transport these consumer products that are created. What has been the response? Shipping lines have, when we hit the 2000 TEU mark, it was a huge technological transformation. All too soon, over the years, we have hit 20,000 TEUs, ships that carry 20,000 TEUs. And it's anticipated that very soon we will be getting 50,000 TEUs at the same time. So ship capacities are really growing. Ports are also, shipping lines themselves are also now transforming themselves, merging with terminal operators and taking concessions in ports and managing terminals themselves. Ports are responding to this by also dredging their ports to be able to receive big ships and then also expand with big container terminals to be able to contain this kind of growth that is emerging. What is this bringing us about? As sea ships increase to take care of the capacities that are emerging, ports are also improving their capacities. Whatever is coming to the ports now needs to be transported to the cities, to the consumers. In the process, it has created a challenge we call capacity bottleneck. It has been discussed in all the presentations. The routes are getting congested. For Africa, for example, we are typically using trucks, which are damaging our roads, and therefore the lifespan of roads are becoming shorter than anticipated, and therefore creating these problems. Of course, it also presents a new business model for ports to really find a way to become part of this challenge and then have a business model to address it. The interesting thing is that as these things are happening, business is growing, market growth is enhancing ports to also grow, but these are coming with environmental challenges, as I already indicated. So what are we doing here? We're beginning to have environmental effects that are coming out of the development growth that is coming. Governments have responded to these challenges by creating new environmental laws. So we have seen new laws to really handle environmental problems. There are new health laws to deal with these challenges, also safety laws, and lots of these. In the interim, the situation is not getting any better. It is still anticipated that till 2050, this kind of environmental pollution is going to increase and continue worldwide. Pollution issues are going to grow, and it's going to continue. So we need to do something about these challenges. In all these developments, what is interesting is the place that ports find themselves. Ports are connected to the global logistic and transport chains. They are also connected to different cities in different regions in different countries across the globe. They're also connected to different regulations, different policies, different rules in different countries, in different forms, in different ways. So that we see that ports now find themselves at the center of all these kind of developments that are creating environmental problems and pollution. In that situation, ports then have a role to be able to help address environmental challenges. And I believe that is where the theme for this conference becomes crucial. Hinterland connection, to be able to get in there. But how do we do this sustainably? Of course, ports elsewhere are beginning to do things to take initiatives to address the environmental challenges. As said by the previous speaker, they're connecting with civil society, connecting with private sector, connecting with governments, connecting with all kinds of actors to really find out solutions. European ports, through their European Seaport Organization, ESPO, came together and were able to identify their major environmental challenges, and then they prioritized these. They have reviewed it from time to time. In 2016, their priorities identified air pollution, air quality as the #1 challenge, and then it continues in that order. So they've done something to address, to indicate what their challenges are and what can be done to address these. What about African ports? Nobody's telling us what to do and how to do this. But no port is immune from environmental impact and challenges. Ports can compete on cargo. I mean, that is what port exists to do. But ports cannot afford to compete on the environment. If we compete on the environment, the weakest regulator gets the trade, and then it only aggravates the environmental situation. So the issue is that environmental solutions must be common across the ports. That's very important. We need common solutions, common approaches. The issue is that there is still hope. There are solutions available, and that's what I want to get to. There is the EcoPorts 2, which I'm here to present, especially for this being the maiden regional conference for IAPH. I also take the opportunity to launch the EcoPorts 2 in this region. It's a tool that is an environmental management system developed specifically for the port sector. It was developed by ports for use by ports. It's been tried and tested, and it works. What is happening is that, if you look at the case of Africa, different ports are doing different things without recourse to each other. This tool is able to allow ports to address their own situations in their own ways, but on a common ground among the ports, so that you have a common standard and a common approach across the ports. It is a tool that is designed to support port associations. If you look at my map, you can see ESPO, that is the European Seaport Organization. They actually developed this tool and have been using it. If you look on the left, you see the Association of American Port Authorities as a regional organization. They've also adopted it. Africa has 3 maritime regions: Northern Africa, Western and Central Africa, Eastern and Southern Africa. But let's see. I would get to the next slide, but before then, the tool, in brief, I cannot explain everything here, but it's just to introduce it. The tool basically enables ports to create an environmental aspect register. In summary, it enables us as ports to identify the operational aspects, all the themes in our operations, management, production, operations, whatever you can call it, and then identify the kind of environmental aspects that are connected with those items in our operational processes. And then identify regulations that get connected to those particular situations. And then also how to address them, and then you get out there. You can see here, as indicated by the last speaker, the city, the community in which the port is located, is the first victim of pollution problems from the ports. But how are they connected with the solutions? So it gets you to engage the community and all major stakeholders in finding solutions. Through it, training camps. I just saw the Honorable MD's response on one of the journals this morning that we need to take opportunity to learn and then move on. So this tool gives us the opportunity to learn on how to address the environmental situations. And then also, monitoring is very important because our ports don't even have the database to tell where they stand when it comes to environmental situation. We can create it from there and then monitor our progress. And we don't just monitor and keep it, but also communicate. Because when you communicate your environmental progress, it improves, it shows the image and credibility of the port and makes your customers confident in using you and also attract investors who gets there. Yes, it can be approached in three simple ways. First of all, by registration. To register to become a part of the EcoPort team. And that's what this presentation seeks to do, that at this maiden conference, we seek to have African EcoPort ambassadors. So those who would want to go with us as lead partnering ports to join the EcoPorts, the use of EcoPort tools. We want to get it done here, initiated here at this maiden conference. So we would encourage people to be able to log on and register. I'm available to help you to do the registration. Very simple process to register, to log on to the system, and then we'll help you from there. After that, you'll be taken through, it's online, so it's not difficult. You'll be taken through a self-diagnosis method. The next speaker is going to talk about that, so I will not have to preempt his presentation. And then also eventually to get you certified. And then you become an EcoPort certified port. But we want this forum to create African ambassadors for EcoPorts. We also need to move on. Why do I say this? Sorry. Why do I say this? If you look at this map, the green and blue logos that you find there is the logo for EcoPorts. So ports that are certified with EcoPorts have that label. What is striking here? Basically, there are 4 regions, but let's look at the 3 regions. The America region, North America and South America. We can see a number of EcoPort certified ports there. Above Africa is Europe. Of course, the tool came from Europe, so we can see that all the European ports are there. You can't even see the logo anymore. It's all green, green, green there. What happens to the continent below? Could you tell me, please? Sorry. Nothing. Praise the Lord. So you approach today. So today we bring it to you. There's none. And that's why I say we want to use this maiden conference to launch it and then have the African EcoPort ambassadors so that we can have the first African EcoPort training right after the maiden IAPH conference. What this tells me is that we already have a network in this room because we have several African ports represented here. So we already can form our EcoPorts network from here. Now, to kind of get to the end of it, I just want to come up with a few comments that people who have used it have come up with. There's the chief executive of a big port authority who has said that the use of the EcoPort tools stimulated from the start to improve and also have cost reductions. And of course, that's what we're talking about. Sustainability is business. Sustainability is development. Sustainability brings profit. Chief executives today are being paid for creating sustainable businesses, and then you can get it. For a shipping company, they say, we select our ports on their yearly proven environmental improvements. So if such company came to Africa, it would not select any ports. From a large production company, a multinational, it says, we invest in ports with high environmental standards. African ports, we cannot afford to be left behind. We need to attract these good investors also. And a large bank, yesterday we had presentations from some financial institutions here, and they indicate here that for them to support ports, the ports will first have to put environmental risk prevention and management system in place. So we can't miss it. In summary, I would say I've just tried to let you know that there's market growth, there's opportunity for ports to grow, but these create environmental risks and problems that require addressing. Environmental management systems like EcoPorts tools are able to offer improvement and the reduction of risks. Likely, it's also able to develop new insights for port business models. And last but not the least, if we join EcoPorts, it connects us to the global club of elite ports. It connects us to the club of elite ports globally. And that's where we need to get to. We want to leave a mark for our generation, for them to know that we cared about them, and therefore they also have to do for the next generation. Thank you. The next presenter will look at it and then they tell you our institution for training is Americ, and the next presenter will talk about that one for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, one more time, let's give Dr. Harry Barnes-Daban a round of applause. His presentation, I'm sure, has stimulated interest amongst African ports. Quickly, we're switching gears now to the presentation from Professor of Environmental Management in Seaport and Vice President of Arab Academy for Science, Technology, and Maritime Transportation. Please welcome Professor Al-Snosi Balba. Professor Balba, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for all of you. Firstly, I would like to thank our valuable country, Nigeria. It's always taking the opportunity to gather us. So I have to thank Nigeria first of all. Secondly, I would like to thank the very brilliant guy, Minister of Transport. We have met before once. So I remember, so yeah, thank you very much for your coming and sharing our session. Thirdly, I have to thank Mrs. Kadiga for her invitation to be among such a very unique event. Last but not least, I have to thank Dr. Patrick and for IAPH for giving us such opportunity to be here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your listening. I will present some issues to be considered to reach to green borders in Africa. You thought green borders is very essential for all of us. So would you please, I'm going to my agenda. First of all, I will highlight to the importance of environmental management in seaports. Secondly, I will highlight African seaports opportunities, challenges, and the role of Arab Academy towards the green borders through establishing the African and Middle East Regional Environmental Center. First of all, I would like to highlight with a very brief introduction. As we know, protection of natural environment is an increasingly important aspect of port management. Implementation of environmental program is very essential and would lead to better environmental performance. Today's port license to operate is more associated to its environmental performance. Of course, as you know, regularity is what is the benefits of port resulting from environmental program, environmental impact prevention and minimization, energy efficiency and conversion, operational efficiency and cost reduction, regulatory compliance, community outreach, and the new market, health and safety as well. What is the impact of port operation on environment? Of course, an increasing number of ports are taking measures to prevent. Firstly, marine and atmospheric pollution, improve energy efficiency, enhance their waste management process, and reduce their greenhouse gas emission. Environmental management is increasingly practiced as essential component of the business plan of any operation that claims to be sustainable, efficient, and compliant with legislation that is particularly relevant in port activities. Port development operation and activities as well has adverse consequences in the environmental responsible for port of negative. What is the environmental impact of port? Thus be divided into three categories. First, problems caused by port activity itself. Secondly, problems caused by sea, by ships calling at the port. Emission from the intermodal transport hinterland network on serving the port hinterland. Also, it's very essential to consider the port emission, either from ships calling the ports, either from the activities running on inside the port, as well as the community and so on. Of course, while efficient ports are vital too, the economic development of their surrounding areas, the related ship traffic, the handling of the goods and port, and the hinterland distribution, it causes a number of negative environmental impacts. Where is the African seaports? Ports provide a gateway to African trade. Their competitiveness and positioning in global supply chain defines Africa's ability to export and import, of course. There is a need to promote environmental and economic sustainability. Increasing environmental awareness poses new challenges to the development of any port. What is the constraints of environmental measures? Firstly, geographical factors. Secondly, there is a regularity factors as well. In addition to that, there is a technical factors. African port expansion is needed, of course. All of us needs expansion, needs new ports and so on, to accommodate mounting trade volumes between the continent itself and the rest of the world, and to handle the increased exploration and production of oil and gas in the region. On the other hand, African port expansion has raised, of course, marine environment concerns. Countries are unprepared to deal with threat of pollution in and around their ports. What is the challenges facing the African seaports? There is no precise data figures on the levels of pollution in and around Africa's port cities. It's very essential. Secondly, experts have warned of the region's vulnerability to marine pollution because of the unpreparedness of the port operators and the governmental maritime agencies. According to World Bank, shipping lines along the East African coast are among the best in the world, carrying more than 30% of the world crude oil. What is the challenges? Port construction, expansion, or modernization, despite bringing economic development to the region, of course. Second, also pose the threat of the possible environmental degradation that could harm the very population they intended to benefit. The most common sources of pollution, as all of us will know, ship bunkering, noise levels, sewage and general garbage, dust, and the traffic congestion. Although those issues are very essential for business, we can make money from such issues. Sources of pollution in African seaports, as my colleague have mentioned, dumping of toxic waste is there, ship's waste reception is there, oil spills is there, treatment and disposal is there, and so many traffic congestion by the way. Also, we have found that there is all over the years 10 priorities of environmental priorities. The most issue is very highlighted and very emphasized nowadays is the air quality. What is the environmental challenges in ports? African ports are setting their first steps in moving toward this integrated green port management strategy. Should be there. Compared to the developed countries, and in particular Europe, priority setting is similar on the level of quality of air quality as the main priority. According to West and Central Africa, the ports in West Africa has a poor level and awareness about the importance of the clean environment and the region negative effect of pollution. So we need to awareness, we need to raise the environmental performance of African ports. We need to environmental aspects also play an increasing role in attracting trading partners and potential investors. A port with a strong environmental record and a high level of community support is likely to be favored. Without proper environmental tools, I believe, and the policies in the port, there is an increased risk of having clear imbalance between the environmental challenge and economic demand. Environmental tools and certification are one of the stipulated way in which Africa ports can minimize, mitigate negative impact of climate change and environmental risk. Of course, here the previous former presenter have highlighted about the EcoPort certification, which is PERS and CSDM. Of course, to go to such certification, we have to go to the pathway to the self-diagnosis method, SDM, as well as PERS, Port Environmental Review System. What is the role of Arab Academy, ASTMT, towards green port in Arab and Africa and the Middle East? AST, since its inception in 1972, has been dedicated to fostering a highly professional environment of advancing knowledge, developing human potential, breaking new intelligent academic ground and transfer know-how, improving the lives of human beings and communities all over Africa, Arab, and worldwide. For the sake of raising awareness on environmental protection, a new environmental center have been launched. The African and Middle East Regional Environmental Center was created on March 18, 2018, by cooperation between ASTMT and EcoSLC, Sustainable Logistics Chain Foundation. In this concern, Emerick Center is created to transfer and share knowledge and know-how between European ports and Africa and Middle East ports. What is the role? ASTMT seeks always about the internationalization and fulfillment of social responsibility. So we looked forward, we made a partnership with European ports as well as with EcoSLC. Why? To get EcoPort, Emerick will towards green ports in Africa and Middle East, pathway to environmental certification, self-diagnosis method should be there, and PERS should be there. What is the vision of such center, Emerick? Is to be world-class center for environmental consultation in the port, transport, and maritime sector, and integrated solution in compliance with the international standards. To contribute to the improvement of the international effects of operation in the port, transport, and maritime sectors of the region in Africa and Middle East by offering distinguished and integrated solution and consultation. What is the mission? Create awareness to green port in Egypt, Arabian and African countries, assist to obtain international environmental quality certification, which I mean PERS itself, and achieving SDM a SWOT analysis component, and provide advice and recommendation of steps necessary toward this international standards. What is the results of PERS? SWOT analysis, gap analysis, benchmark performance, annual report, preparation for PERS, compliance and commitment, awareness and motivation. What is the advantage of SDM? Obtain the EcoPort status and be part of a wide network, which is very essential for all of us. Share experience and best practice within the network, increase visibility and repetition, raise awareness on environmental protection, access to the other EcoPort tools. What is the role of African America? I mean, introduction and training. We can make introduction, training workshops in environmental certificates, familiarization workshops, and for board representative, training course for board representative as well, prepare checklists to review and fill online steps of SDM. Secondly, provide assistance in submitting the application of SDM. EcoSLC and Americ will evaluate the applicant and provide gap analysis and corrective action as well, will provide help and support for board representatives. What is PERS? As we have mentioned, PERS is a unique certification, especially launched for the ports. So PERS provide framework and protocol for ports to develop, implement, and maintain an effective environmental management system based on international standards. PERS implementation can be independently certified by Lloyd's Register, of course. What is the reason why you are going to go to the PERS? Because it's going to make a cost saving, compliance with regulation, meeting customer satisfaction and expectations, it's very essential, motivating the port authority toward this integrated environmental management system, align with 2015 ISO 14001 environmental management system, and in line with ESPO recommendation. What is the role of Americ here? Seminars and workshops, assist filling online EcoSLC, assist in preparing PERS documentation based on EcoPort's requirements, internal audit by Americ, ready to submit to the external audit for lines. What is the role of AST here? Assist ports and port terminals to introduce EcoPort, the global environmental management system, deliver training workshops to assist ports in the region, create environmental awareness through rehabilitation, guide, provide, innovate solution consultancy. Of course, Americ role towards applying SDM and obtaining PERS is very essential, and especially for training and for certification. I wish that I didn't take more than 15 minutes because Richard all the time working for keeping time. I hope that I have kept my time, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Balba. Thank you. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, David. We will take the panel discussions immediately. Because of time constraint, the panel discussions, question and answer, and the conversations from the panel members will be for 30 minutes, after which we will have a very short MOU signing ceremony, and thereafter I'll make some closing announcements for today so that we can turn around this hall for your entertainment at 8 p.m. tonight. Okay, so quickly, let me begin this panel session by inviting Yusufu Imingi. Mr. Imingi is on the panel. Mr. Imingi? Yes. So the Director General, Tangent Med Engineering Group, he's on the panel as well. Let's welcome him. The Head Shipping Development of NIMASA is also on this panel. Let's welcome Oga D. Anthony. The Chairman, Port Consultative Forum, is also on this panel. Let's welcome Otumba Kunle Folari. Acting CEO of the Walvis Bay Corridor Group of the Namport Authority, Mr. Clive M. Smith, is also on the panel. Let's welcome Mr. Smith. As we are very well aware, our Honorable Minister of Transportation is our chairman. So please let's welcome Right Honorable Rotimi Chibike Amechi.
To have the chairman at the end. The reason is if there is trouble, you got to jump out of here. I'm sure all of us listened to the conversation that took place that was kicked off by a very formal government speech, which did not deal much with the technical aspect of your conference. It dealt more with government issues, what has government done, what is the vision of government in terms of maritime and maritime development. In fact, as I listened to the first paper, I was thinking about Nigeria. The argument in Nigeria has been that in the course of our port development, if the port development was for, say, 1 million tons per year, and now you're receiving, say, 5 to 10 million tons, and the port has remained the same, shouldn't we be expanding and growing by now? Listening to the gentleman from Antwerp gave us the insight that whether we are broke or not, we should look for money for expansion. Because trade facilitation is an essential tool to economic growth. And economic growth creates employment. I'm sure you listen to that. There are two issues that they try to say that they are germane to the West African environment, which includes Nigeria. That's the issue of environmental development. And actually, most of us in government, forgive me, I'm a bit leftist on issues of government. Most of us in government think that, actually, if you have not eaten, why are you going to talk about environment? The first tool to environmental development is your stomach. Is that not true? The environmental people are shaking their heads. No. If you're hungry and you're talking about environmental conditions and you die, who will focus on environmental? And as I say, it's not government speaking now. I'm not speaking as Minister for Transport. I'm speaking as chairman of this session. Because if you take it before the president, I say this is what I mentioned. I say no, sir. I was speaking as a man who read at the University of Port Harcourt when we had leftist professors. Because that's what the professor will ask you. You're dealing with road, water, light, you're dealing with building government house, building house where the president will sit. When people on the street are hungry, they should actually first eat before you can talk about presidential villa or where the governor will live, because it's essential that we eat food. But beyond that, if you want to make it academic, it's the part that I agree that those items we feed on generate the conditions that cause environmental damages. And whether West Africa likes it or not, we need to focus on that. But I want to take the argument, so that when you can start, I want to take the argument the Chinese are taking on this issue of railways. We have a huge argument we have not resolved in the past 3 to 4 months. What's the argument? What is international standard? I've listened to all of you, the two last speakers. You said international standard. What is international standard? Because we heard the Chinese to that argument. We said, no, we don't want the Chinese signaling. We want you to go to international standard. And they said, what is international standard? At the end of the day, we realized that the international standard is the European standard. Because if you look at this thing you showed, the gentleman who dealt with the environmental permission, is it approval before you can say this seaport can operate? There was none in America. America is a continent. From Canada upward, they had their own standard. It's Europe, some part of Africa, and some part of in fact, Asia didn't even okay, some part of Asia, or is it Middle East? No, Middle East. Asia didn't concern themselves with you because they had their own standard. So why can't we as Africa develop our own and let them you see what's international? It is important to the fact that it can compete with any other global standard. Once you can compete at that level, it becomes international. But because we are not properly developed, everybody is forcing their own standard or not and call it. Gentlemen, we start with, and I welcome all of you. We start with Yusuf. Let's hear Yusuf. Inige, right? Am I correct? Director General of Tonga Med Engineering Group, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. Mais je vous rejoins en tant que Monsieur le Président, je vous rejoins sur. Je vous laisse mettre. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Merci, monsieur le ministre. Donc, comme vous l'avez souligné en tant que président, donc vous avez suggéré que la problématique, c'est d'abord comment régler la faim des gens, mais c'est d'ailleurs qu'on ne va pas réfléchir au développement durable. En effet, je suis presque d'accord avec vous, mais si on reste dans notre secteur, le portuaire, si jamais il y a un problème de pollution, grave pollution, donc ça va impacter directement l'environnement. Et comme la plupart des ports sont entourés de la vie, donc ça va créer un gros problème. Donc cette prise de conscience de s'occuper de l'environnement, ça doit être intégré, ça ne doit pas être un plus, c'est-à-dire en termes de voilà, nous on est arrivé, on va faire un peu plus pour l'environnement. Non, ça doit être un état d'esprit dans le sens où le port fait transiter beaucoup de marchandises très dangereuses. Je prends le cas assez simple, celui des ballasts des eaux des navires. Si jamais, bon, ça crée beaucoup, c'est-à-dire ça contient beaucoup de bactéries, si jamais ces ballasts sont évacués dans l'eau du bassin du port, bah, ça peut créer une pollution marine, ça peut tuer même l'écosystème et ça peut couper même la vie des pêcheurs. Il n'y aura plus de poissons dans la région. Donc c'est des sujets qui sont assez cruciaux et qui doivent être pris en compte. Mais comme j'ai dit, ce n'est pas des choses qu'on doit prendre en plus, ou bien pour faire bien, ou bien pour s'afficher, d'avoir des différents labels, des différentes certifications selon les normes précitées, mais surtout pour que l'environnement il est assez fragile, donc il va falloir protéger tout cet écosystème, tout en sachant que le port, c'est beaucoup plus, comme j'avais dit ce matin, c'est beaucoup plus un complexe industriel ou portuaire, donc il y a des usines, il y a des mouvements, même en termes de congestion, ça crée beaucoup de pollution, parce que les camions qui stationnent, donc ils sont toujours en roulage, donc il y a beaucoup de dioxyde de carbone qui est émergé, donc tout ça nécessite une certaine réflexion. Je reviendrai sur le développement ce qu'on a vu sur les deux dernières présentations, sur le développement des espaces, ou de comment créer les espaces. Comment créer des espaces? Des espaces, certainement, ça doit exister à l'intérieur des ports, mais ils sont occupés par des marchandises. Ces marchandises qui séjournent beaucoup, donc il faut trouver tout un système. Comme on l'a dit, donc il y a les systèmes il y a la problématique de congestion qui est due je dirais, à 3 paramètres. Soit les infrastructures sont vétustes ou incapables de traiter le trafic qui transite, soit il y a un problème des équipements. Donc, pour faire tourner les bateaux et sortir les marchandises, donc on n'a pas un équipement adéquat pour faire tout ça, soit c'est un problème de procédure, donc c'est les procédures douanières, c'est le délai de séjour, c'est pas mal de choses qui traînent. Et des fois, ça peut être la combinaison de ces 3 problèmes. Donc, les ports, comme on l'avait dit ce matin, comme on l'a constaté sur les différentes problématiques, de quoi tous nos ports doivent se concentrer de gérer cette problématique par un dimensionnement, par regarder ce qu'on peut faire, et surtout la partie soft de la problématique, c'est d'avoir des systèmes guichets uniques, des systèmes d'information qui sont intégrés, des systèmes d'information, que ce soit avec le portuaire, que ce soit avec le maritime, ça doit être lié, et surtout privilégier les transports qui nécessitent moins de pollution, à savoir le rail ou principalement le cabotage quand c'est nécessaire en termes de par voie maritime. Je voudrais faire une petite remarque par rapport à la présentation de Ecoport. Je crois sur la carte que vous avez mentionnée, il y avait Tangemet qui avait parce qu'on est certifié Ecoport depuis 2017, et comme c'est proche de l'Europe, on est à 14 km, donc à l'échelle, ça ne se voit pas trop, mais on est certifié Ecoport, certification perse. Malheureusement, je ne connaissais pas très bien votre organisme à l'époque quand on avait travaillé sur le sujet. Ça nous a pris un peu plus de 6 mois pour mettre en place toute la structure. Heureusement qu'on a été certifié, et là on continue, donc on aura un audit bientôt. Mais tout à l'heure, en aparté, je suis prêt à partager une expérience. Et s'il y a des ports de la région, africains ou avec l'AMREC, donc on est disposé à ce que Tangemet soit un laboratoire en temps réel pour venir voir les dispositions qui ont été prises. Et vous seriez les bienvenus. On est prêt à collaborer avec les 2 organismes pour aider et accompagner la certification des autres ports. Voilà, Monsieur le Président. Donc j'ai terminé ma présentation.
Thank you, Mr. Imingi. We'll listen to Ogadi Antonio of Nimasa.
Yes, sir, Mr. Honorable Minister. It's quite intriguing and apt at this time that this conference is coming up. And the basic question that comes to mind is the position of Africa in the global setting. And as you rightly noticed and commented, what parameters are used in setting this, in this setting, and to know where where Africa stands? Maritime reports come out and they chunk out, and at the end of the day, you try to look for Africa in the scheme of things, and they are not there. For instance, the global rating that just came out for the 30 performing shipping countries in the world, Africa seems not to be there. You ask why? Very pertinent question. In terms of shipping, no African country is there. In terms of maritime law and financing, no African country is there. In terms of maritime technology, no African country is represented in the top 30s. In terms of ports and logistics, no African country is there. It now brings up the question of why. Then issues of the competitiveness of the port comes to play. And that is one of the reasons why we are here to see how we can drive the system to see our own play out in the global setting. Maritime and port activities have global benchmark and has to use the settings and the achievements of all the developed economies to benchmark our processes and our performance in African setting. What makes a port competitive is what should come to mind. How should we be able to now meet up with the global practices in terms of having quick turnaround of vessels in our ports? As he mentioned, the custom agents processing, Steve Doran, how are our ports linked up with intermodal transportation? How do we actually see that all operators on the port are well coordinated? Various issues come to play. When we now take our place in the global maritime setting, the issues, the antecedent problems of pollution and the rest now comes in. We should be able to now tackle them with what has been profiled here. But my take on this is to see how do we play out in the global sphere of maritime activities in the world, so that when we are in certain fora, we should be able to, as Africans, because of the endowment we have, Africa is not under ports. We have about 421 ports in Africa. Like what the Antwerp system, the Antwerp system now showed us this afternoon. The quantum of TEUs that are handled in Antwerp are almost equivalent to what is handled in the port of Said in Egypt. The number of berths we have in the port of Durban can play out well in the global maritime setting. So what do we now do to see that our ports are competitive to play the role we are supposed to play in the global setting? When that is achieved, the antecedents of port development could now be tackled simultaneously with other issues that comes up. The Honorable Minister, I think I'll stop here so far until you ask.
Okay, before I call the next speaker, I just want to be understood properly. I did not say that the African standard is a standard that suits us. There are global tools for competition, so that public managers or managers of ports don't say, oh, the Europeans don't like us, that's why they are built with. No. A situation where you say in your port, before anybody gets into your port, you must identify him for security purposes. In our port, anybody just gets into the port. Touts, that's not the standard. Because the man who expects goods to come from your port to his own port expects that you've done all the necessary security checks such that nobody who is a militant or a terrorist can have access to that vessel that may come to cause any damage to his own seaport. That's one of the standards. So when I argue that, look, you cannot convert European standard to African standard, what I mean by that is that you must compete with the standard that Europeans have set for themselves. And then you can say this is African standard. You can't debase Africa and say, oh, they don't like our face, or because we are black. There's something like black or white in, what's it called, seaport. Yes, the next speaker, Chief Folare.
Honorable Speaker, am I coming up? Well, actually, the earlier presentation gave a very frightening comparison. That is, port activities and related issues are synonymous with environmental disaster. And then it's frightening because that supposes that we say, shall we stop developing the ports? Shall we reduce the activities in the port? And what is the purpose of the hinterland connectivity we have been discussing? Because intermodal transport will come in. We're going to have transshipment, ship movement. That is the essence of all this debate we have been having since the last 2 days. We must find a way to situate this question and get the answer. We have to start looking at where do we have comparison with everywhere in the world, where they have set up eco standards and all the procedures that they are following. We must also move on and say where do we have comparative advantage in all these things. We are more or less in a very infantile situation whereby we have the opportunity not to make the mistakes they have made or to go through the path they have gone through. But essentially, we must focus on the subject. The issue is simply this. Within the African setting, and let's start with the home one, Nigeria, we have various institutions that have been set up to deal with this matter. For example, within the Nigerian Ports Authority, there is an HSC department fully focused on environmental issues. There is government institutions of NISRA, which is dealing with all issues, dealing with marine waste and all the issues, probably spread into industrial waste material control. And probably we have all the agencies of government which are aligned with this type of question. The issue is simply this. Growth and development and the environment, there's a strong correlation. The correlation is that if you must go, there are prices to pay. If we go over time, within our own history, our evolution from a largely agrarian society to an industrial society, we have gone through the mirage of issues of pollution, either in the marine waste or even in oil exploitation, where we have kind of gas emission and all that things that are coming up. But we manage. In other words, while we are looking at comparative situation global, and we are looking at what have the methodology they have used in approaching these issues, we must also look at our situation and look at it as a case study. In the case study, you do an adaptation process whereby you say, this is what is happening globally, and this is how it dealt with. And then you look at the local situation and say, these are the issues there. The dimension might be different, the situation might be different, the setting certainly will be different. Above all, the concerns of the society is very key. Pollution levels that are acceptable in Africa probably will not be tolerated in Europe, certainly not, or in Asia. So we have to start building models that take into cognizance our peculiarity, our situation, where we are allowed to grow, possibly not as a blind man, not taking cognizance to what is happening everywhere in the world in terms of marine pollution control and other nuisances in the environment, but conscious that growth is important to us also. So the port activity cannot be sacrificed on the altar that we want to have a total zero tolerance for environmental control. But having said all that, what are the solutions? What are the machinery we are going to put in place? I'm a principal stakeholders in this particular sector. I know the feelings of people, and the first job number one is to be able to deliver on their processes. It's for the truckers. As the minister we know, and Hadiza also know, he's been back there for a lot of months, probably years. Access into the port, trying to control the truckers from bringing dilapidated or emission-prone trucks into the port. And this creates standards. So this comes to what the Honorable was saying. Can we create standards based on our circumstances, on our experiences? Number one, we have done that. Within the trucks, Hadiza came and said, certification of trucks that go into the port must be a concern. And they said a regime of compliance issues around this one. And what have we got? We are having new trucks coming to the port, and they are denied access to dilapidated trucks. Control has come in, checking pollution control from what is emission from truckers. We can go on and develop a new regime of compliance routes for example, ships coming to the port. I know for sure that essentially what we are trying to achieve is to make this port a safe environment for work, for business, and particularly for those who probably have to do a lot of, can I say, control in the port system. What we need to do today is to start to look at the mechanics of getting this done. Do we set it in motion? Number one, we did the truckers. Number two, we did the with the ships. Number three, we did the industrial concerns in the port. Because as the presentation this morning clearly stated, within the port environment, there are many divisions. Today, the world is dividing itself into different port sectors. Industrial zones in the port, or a whole
Thank you very much. We would like to hear from Clive Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I think, Honourable Minister, my intervention will be very short and sweet. I think I'll mostly focus on the aspect of continuous development and financing of port projects. But if you'll allow me, I think I'll also just agree on the issue of standards, especially when it comes to an African context. I think the mistake that we as Africans always do is that we tend to benchmark on the international world, where in fact, if one look at it from a global perspective, if we talk about Americas or Europe, when they look at Africa, they should also say that we international as well. I just look at the room around us here. We've got a host of experts here with the knowledge, the technical capacity, but sometimes we tend to benchmark on either the Asians or the Americans or the Europeans. No disrespect to our colleagues, because we do tend to learn a lot. But the mistake we tend to make is to want to do the copy and paste aspect of having a learning exercise and want to implement it as is back home, where the conditions are not the same. Talking about port development and, of course, the future going forward, there has been a 2016 Deloitte report that has given a number of infrastructure or construction projects on the continent with a combined value of close to $324 billion US dollars, of which about 40% of that was in transport sector and port related. So really, we can clearly see that there's still a lot of work being done in ports and harbors across the world. That being said, of course, and if I may maybe just take a small case study of Namibia, the idea is that, of course, ports and the road transport infrastructure have to develop ahead of demand. And this is really what we've done back in Namibia. For those that know Namibia, it's a very large country in terms of scale, but a very small population, and of course a very small market size, 2.5 million people. But our focus is not on our country as such, but within the region. And in our region, we have a consumer market of about 300 million potential customers. And for that reason, the authorities in Namibia has focused on port and maritime development over the past 15 years. A classical example is that, and I always make that example back home, we didn't need to spend any money within our port or transport environment if it was for our own need. Again, 2.5 million people. We still rely heavily on South Africa in terms of general consumables. But because we had a view, and we obviously has an obligation towards the landlocked countries around us, the government has invested heavily into port infrastructure. Over the past 15 years, and of late, we've also got a new container terminal project that is slated to be completed in second quarter 2019. That is almost about 500 million US dollars project. And again, it is not for the consumption of Namibia, but for the region. So basically what we're saying is that as port communities, we have to constantly develop, because ports and maritime transport infrastructure ultimately is the catalyst for economic development. And of course, our focus is again in the region. What we have found and what we constantly come across is maybe a challenge for the port community is there is seemingly, and I use the word seemingly, not a lot of collaboration amongst the African ports. Understandably, certain regions, there's a lot of competition. Sometimes we vie for the same markets. And this could really create some challenges in terms of economic growth and also learning from each other. I think maybe the final point, the environment issue is, of course, of paramount importance. We are cognizant of that as well. And the Port Authority of Namibia has adopted a robust plan to look at the environment sustainability whilst we are doing a lot of development. And if I may, Honourable Minister, our colleague from EcoPorts yesterday, I have committed to possibly, on behalf of NAMPORT, be one of the first ambassadors for that program. And I saw the presentation today that nobody in Africa yet, so hopefully we will have some discussion on that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. You and I didn't disagree. We said the same thing. All I said was that Africans must have their own standard, but must not make the standard look in such a way that others can't export to your country. It must be standard that allows whatever that you have in other continents to meet the requirement of environmental needs. Because you can't expect somebody, there are some seaports you go to, and when you see the agri-produce they want to export, even before it leaves your country to Europe, you say, don't bring it, don't keep it in your country. So I'm just saying that we should meet that, our own standard must meet that level that allows us to be able to trade with others. But I prefer an African standard. I prefer that our own standard becomes global. I will go back to you. If
soup down again if you have final comments, ending comments before we go to the public. Or do you prefer we go to the public and come back to you? Okay. If there are questions, yes, sir. MPA. MPA pension, okay. MPA is MPA without pension or? There's somebody here.
Honorable Mr. Chair, I would like to just add one thing before I ask. There is a lot of pressure on the ports to both be industrial, to be clearing, and to be discharging cargo. Now, in this digital age, it would be better for you to find a specific area where the custom formalities are done. You reduce the pollution. If you look at Apapa Port 45 years ago, all the spaces that are outside the ports were free, but everybody clustered the port. So, in spite of the fact that you put standard for environmental pollution, for as long as everybody look at the port area as an activity area, you are still going to raise up your standard. In terms of international competition, regional competition, I would like to find out from some of the African port operators, what are they going to do about pricing? Because you need to also need to make sure that your port is competitive enough for bigger ships to come in.
Okay, I think the first one, it should be blamed on the country. Your question is looking at is mirroring the Nigerian seaports or river ports. That's what your question is mirroring. Most ports now, is it digital or electronic based? So if you want to import, before your goods arrive, you've settled with customs. But in our own case, as you arrive, you meet one man on this table, you're moving from table to table, table to table. By the time you go to all the tables, you have spent like 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Before your goods will come out and go and all that, you have spent 1 month. But if you do what they call it, what we're trying to do at the FEC, we call it National Trade Platform. We call it single window. You won't believe that Nigeria is the only country in West Africa that has no single window. That is not a single window. Every other country in West Africa has single window. So if you get that, you don't need customs. You don't need customs.
What about industrial clusters?
Oh, that's why I'm going. I want to ask if either Fullerton or Clive can take that. Let's hear from Fullerton.
Well, it depends. You see, some ports go through evolution. Like Papa Port, which you referred to, there was no industrial concern at the beginning. Over time, we have pockets of clusters within the ports manufacturing one type of thing or the other. But then we did not design the port for that. The port was not designed for industrial. But then you have to make do with what you have. Since you have committed yourself to permit or license industrial production in the port, you must take the consequences. The consequences are probably one of the issues raised in today's forum, that you have pollution issues, you have issues of bottlenecks, you have the city growing into the port, and so many other concerns. Because when you have a port, an industrial concern in the port, there must be evacuation of the proceeds of the port. The products must go out. That increases the level of traffic into the port. That increases the interchange of trucking into the port. So a lot of chain effects come because you are doing what you are not designed for. Having said that, if we must go forward and look at all the experiences whereby you have industrial zone, I believe that the gentleman from Tangier made a presentation this morning, and I noticed he said that we have an industrial zone in the port, and we have a commercial zone, and then probably a free trade zone. If that is the case, it was designed for that purpose. In other words, you must have made provisions for control, for regulation, and also for the traffic. So, what we are experiencing today is the concept of operating out of design. Then what are the solutions? We must make sure that from now on, the new deep sea port we are designing, we are constructing, take the cognizance of all these fears, of all these possibilities. grow clusters of industries around the port, or we create a movement that was a model was suggested in the proceedings of yesterday or today, that we can normally create a situation whereby 80% of cargo through the ports are taken outside the terminal to the outdoor terminals. In other words, you are removing the possibility and removing the opportunity for customs control and all the nuisances they are creating, pardon me for using that word. And also, you'll be able to really deal with the issue of supply chain. What we have today is because we are operating out of design, we are taking no cognizance of the consequences of what has been created, and we are dealing with it not in a holistic way, in a piecemeal way. It wouldn't work. It has never worked anyway. So I would suggest that we live with what we have today and start to deal with that of tomorrow. Deep sea port, 4 or 5 as it comes out all over the place, must have some prerequisites. They must have regulation and compliance platform. That is key. And also to integrate all this discourse into the theme of the conference. How do we achieve internet connectivity, reducing the effect of pollution or environmental damage, if you like, and actually increasing domestic economic growth, regional economic growth, and continental economic growth? Because I believe in all these discussions, what we are trying to achieve by integrating the economies of the various countries within the region, with the landlocked countries and other countries in the sub-region or along the coastal littoral state, is to achieve economic growth. And that can only be achieved if we deploy intermodal systems, which will create, unfortunately for my friend, some pollutions, which will create some nuisances, but we must go on. That is why, from the beginning now, we have been conscious of all those issues that have been raised, and how do we deal with them? How do we stop them from happening? It is very essential that Africa has a unique opportunity to deal with this issue. If you look at Africa, unfortunately too, or fortunately too, Nigeria is the only country in Africa that has got a real deep sea port. All the other ports in West and Central Africa, in East Africa, or the Atlantic, or the Pacific, or in the Indian Ocean. We have this kind of situation that puts us in a straitjacket, and we must continue to be thinkers. We must continue to be doers. Continue to deal with these issues from the domestic point of view, from the local point of view, from the regional point of view, and if the luxury is available, grant us the indulgence of being on the continent.
Chief, where is the deep sea port in Nigeria?
I don't know where it is.
I asked that question because I'm aware that Nigeria has no deep sea port. Oh, okay, that means I didn't hear you well. What we have is river ports, and it's not doing well. There's no sea ports in Nigeria. What we have is river ports. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. We'll take 2 more questions. We'll take one here, 2 here, and then we'll take you. That will be 3, and that will be all. So we'll beg you, if we're unable to take you, please bear with us. But sir, we'll appreciate it if you'll be kind enough to keep your comment. It's on, sir. Just once I'm ready, you will talk. You can just be concise with your comment. We'll appreciate it. 60 seconds. Thank you very much.
The question can also be geared towards the presenters.
Absolutely, they're all here. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
My name is Victor Akpanika. I'm the MD of Port Nutter Limited. I want to align myself with Chief Falori and the man from Namibia. I believe the way forward for us in Nigeria and in this region is to have an integrated regional port development. I believe that if we can have the inland waterways, the rail, the pipeline connectivity, the aviation connectivity in the 2 regions especially, West and Central Africa, coming together to do something that we can take to the world as a bankable project, then we'll be able to achieve that port that we are desirous of in this part of the world. Thank you.
No, don't sit down. Don't sit down. How do we do that?
Okay. it's going to be a PPP arrangement, but it involves engagement of the various stakeholders, especially the ECOWAS and the ECAs, because we need to talk about this issue for us to be able to have enough traffic, because we don't have volume. When we talk about volume in this place, we are looking at volumes that I've seen what Antwerp is doing, I've seen what Egypt is doing, I've seen what other parts, Gonzua is, or is it the Chinese port is doing, and we have not even hit up to 1 million in this part of the region. So I would suggest if we can come together and see how we can get the volume from the mining, the agricultural sector, the oil and gas sector, we put together something that will be robust for everybody to work towards and achieve. Otherwise, what we're doing, all this splinter post development, will keep running in circle. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, he has answered the question, except somebody else want to throw more light. He has answered the question that there are no volumes for such ports to be developed. If he knew that, then he should have asked. Well, if there's anybody who wants to contribute amongst you. Is there anybody who wants to contribute amongst you?
Well, Honorable Minister, the issue on this that we've emphasized initially is for us to be able to be futuristic in our approach. And I feel with time, the aspirations with respect of creating the volumes will be achieved. Like as you said, if clusters are made and we have areas of comparative advantage amongst the African nations, which will actually endear quantums and volumes to be aggregated, that could be actually achieved. If you go down the statistics, you even see the number of African countries that have oil, that we should be able to serve the purpose internally, and other areas that are agro-based, and those that have tourism. All these are the areas we should all work on and see how we can aggregate our performances.
You know why I asked him that question? I asked him, how do we do that? Because I know that for him to ask that question, he must know the reason why. To carry goods from Ghana here, from Nigeria to Ghana, you're not able to do that. You have to go straight first to Europe to bring it. Why? The volume of trade between Ghana and Nigeria is so small that if you put a vessel, it will cost you more to put the vessel than to carry the goods. And I tell people, when they ask me, why are we not developing the airports? I say, don't ask me why we're not building new airports or developing the airport. Ask me why we are not maintaining what we have. Because what determines the size of airport you have is the volume of trade that's going on at the airport. If your airport is very small and the volume surpasses that airport, you'll be forced to expand it. Take for example, you saw the Antwerp seaport, 220 million tons, and you're doing maybe 1.8 or 1 million tons here. How? What kind of money do you want to waste having to build a new seaport when you're doing 1 million tons? In this region you're talking about, we don't produce. Okay, you're saying bring agri, so bring gare, bring rice. If we even produce rice, we don't. So what do you produce? You put together. So where? So that question you asked, you even need the answer in advance. You just wanted to ask the question. That we can do. And that question.
Oh, yes, I have one here.
Honorable Minister, my name is James Nganga. I come from East Africa. I happen to work with an organization that works with the Port of Mombasa, and I want to bring a positive context to the discussion on environmental protection. Between 2013 and 2014, we did an exercise with the port known as the Green Port Policy Study. We were able to identify measures that need to be put into place to ensure environmental sustainability in port operations. We were very fortunate after the policy was adopted by the Kenya Ports Authority. We were able to attract $36 million of funding from the International Climate Fund. And here I'm answering the question of how do you go about it? We're able to get $36 million from the International Climate Fund to address the 10 aspects that were brought by the colleague from EcoPorts on air quality, energy consumption, noise, dust protection, and all that kind of stuff. And we've been working for the last 3 years, since 2014, 2015, to implement those projects. And what we are saying is that it's possible, and there is funding available globally, and this is grant funding to address environmental protection. On a final note, why we are doing that, it was because in the year 2008, this same family that is gathered here the International Association of Ports and Harbors held a World Ports Climate Conference, which came up with a World Ports Climate Declaration. So as the Port of Mombasa, we were going ahead to actually implement, guided by the standards developed by the International Association of Ports and Harbors to mainstream environmental protection. So what I'm saying is that the standards are available. What needs to happen is to put them into a local context and be able to implement what is required to create an environment whereby you actually run efficient port operations, but with a sustainability element in mind. Thank you.
So we'll take one last one there. There's a gentleman whose hand went up on the last row there. Was it you, sir? Was it you? Okay, let's hear him. He's on, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Yusuf Ahmed. I'm from Nigerian Ports Authority. I want to ask Professor a question. Two questions, actually. In Professor's presentation, there was a slide giving us the top 10 priorities, environmental priorities of the port sector from 1996 to 2017. I want to ask, is this study for African ports or all over the world? I also want to ask, is it a surprise to the professor that top among the environmental issues in that study seem to be noise and air quality as against ship discharges and ship waste and dredging? I hope the question is clear.
Professor.
The speaker here.
The speaker here is the professor.
Yes, sir. He's here, sir. You got his question?
Such temporality is all over the world. Yeah, it's not for African ports. It's for all the world. This is the first. Secondly, what is the second? Sorry.
Why is noise and air quality top in the priorities as against ship waste and discharges?
Yes, that's correct. It's against waste and air dispersion from ships. Yeah, you are correct. I hope so.
You say why?
Why? You see, it's a very essential to know that the bunkers that they are using right now is not according to the sulfur dioxide percentage, so they are doing some negative impacts on the air emission. Yeah.
Okay. Let me overrule you. Are there two more persons if not we close?
Okay. As my chairman pleases, two more questions.
Two more.
Do you have anybody in mind, sir?
There's a guy there.
Okay.
No lady.
Get him a microphone.
No lady.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I just have an observation. Because connectivity is either intermodal or multimodal through the usage of a true bill of lading issued by shipping lines.
So you didn't tell us your name and affiliation.
I wonder why did... My name is Samuel Kolade. I actually come from one of the multinational companies, CMCGM, shipping line. The question is, since yesterday we have been discussing, why is it that we don't have any representative of the shipping line, which is very key stakeholder when it comes to intermodal or multimodal, on the panel of discussion to come and make presentation for us to be able to, have the, benefit of understanding their challenges as well. Thanks.
Another question, please. Where is the next question? That is a management question, so you can ask the management of IAPH.
Where do you want me to go, sir? There's a gentleman raising his hand up here.
Good afternoon.
He's on.
Okay. My name is Chuk Lawrence from Nigeria LNG Ship Management. For me, I think it's a very, very good event and occasion for us today for this particular topic hinterland connectivity. Because hinterland connectivity is actually the key to creating employment opportunities in Nigeria. Why? Because when all the networks are connected, the different loading dry ports and the roads are going to ease off or improve the ease of doing business. It's also going to, at the same time, reduce the migration to the coastal areas that are actually doing a lot of shipping activities. And of course, hinterland activities, connectivity is actually going to help Nigeria to improve the general economic situation. But what I want to find out is if we have a kind of a roadmap to achieving it, or if you have a kind of already that is agreement, a framework to achieving this particular noble line we want to follow today. Because I believe that if we are to do that, it's going to unleash a lot of potentials to Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to find out, Will Hadiza, I want to answer the question on why you did not engage the shipping lines to have a space to engage in the conversation so that they can hear their views.
So we did invite the shipping companies. We actually had here just this afternoon the president of the Shippers Owners Association, so they were invited. To the extent that they were not on the panel is another thing, because the panel seek to discuss specific topical issues, but they were part of the invitation and they were here today.
Okay,
so maybe
he
left after the lunch. Maybe he left. Andy Isiche was here with a few people. He probably left after lunch, but he was here.
Okay, I hope the gentleman is satisfied.
That will be awesome.
The interconnectivity is not easy. We are working on railways, which is key. The moment we get our railways right, the congestion at the seaports will reduce. That's why you can see the president is pushing us very hard. But railway, unlike other mode of transportation, is very, very expensive. The railway from Lagos to Ibadan, which we are doing now, is $1.6 billion. Another $1 billion on top will be 1 trillion naira. And that will give you nearly all the roads in Nigeria. In fact, if you do $5 billion, you will have completed all the roads that we're doing in Nigeria. So the appeal we make to Nigerians is to be kind enough to be understanding to the government that at this point in time we're looking for money. We understand that you need intermodality, multimodality, not even intermodality, because the what they call it, newer inland waterways is essential. But you see, when you ask people if they are willing to use that means of transportation, they tell you they will not. But once you put railway, everybody wants to use railway. Most people think that railway is for passenger transportation. No, railway is essentially a tool to moving freight, to decongest activities on the roads, to enable us to have other means of transport. Ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you for this opportunity of having to exercise my right as Chibike Rotimi Amechi. I come back as Minister for Transport, and as Minister, you can't talk. If President catches you, you're in trouble.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, please, can you just rise for group photograph? Gentlemen, please rise. Honorable Minister, I want you in the middle, please. Just move forward for the group photo. Please move forward. Just come forward a bit, just come forward. Honorable Minister, please, I want you in the middle. Our speakers for this session, Prof. MD, please, I want you there as well. Prof, please go up there. Where is Dr. Yes, Doctor, please, go up there. Am I missing a speaker? Yes, I'm missing, yes. Please go up. Paparazzi, just hold on 1 second. David, can we get on? In a bit, just in a bit, hold on. In a bit. All right. Okay, paparazzi, click away. One more round of applause for His Excellency, Right Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amechi, speaking in his capacity as Mr. Amechi. We thank you. We thank our discussants. We thank our speakers. It's been a great session, another fantastic outing for the sessions. Thank you very much. Please sit down. They will take their seats. Please give us 4 minutes. We want to perform a very significant function here today. Partnership, collaboration is, of course, the way to move this business forward. So the minister will just take his seat for another 4 minutes, and we'll be closing this session in a bit. So if we'll please allow the minister to sit down. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. Allow our speakers. So at the very beginning of the Guangzhou port video this afternoon, the very first word that was used was collaborate now, create the future. A couple of months ago, I think it was sometime last year, we also came out to an event of this nature where the Nigerian Ports Authority strengthened their partnership with the Port of Miami. And this trade facilitation business will all need to get into the space of collaborating with sister ports across the globe. In the Antwerp ports presentation, they told us of the partnerships they have across the globe. The ports in Guangzhou as well told us of the partnerships they have across the globe. And the African ports, the ones that have not entered into partnerships with fellow African ports or ports around the world, are also asking for such partners. So partnership and collaboration is indeed one way to help transfer technology, to help build capacity, to also help smooth facilitation of trade across the entire globe, in this case between Guangzhou and the MPA ports across the country. So to perform this Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony, I would like to ask to join, to get on the podium now, the Managing Director, Nigerian Ports Authority, Hadiza Bala Usman. Ma'am, please. She will be accompanied by Eniola Williams, who is the General Manager and Board Secretary, as well as Legal Advisor to the NPA. Shall we please welcome the Legal Advisor of the NPA and the MD of the NPA as they take their place on the podium. Of course, it's an MOU signing. They will be doing this. They will be doing this with Yuan Yu. She is the Guangzhou Ports China Deputy Director General. She will be accompanied by Mrs. Chen Yu. Chen Yu is Director of General Office of the Guangzhou Port Authority, China. Can we please put our hands together for these women who are holding it strong in the space of trade facilitation? Yeah, she said all ladies. I like that. All ladies. So women are making it happen in the world. They are holding it down strong and indeed bringing economic development and growth for the people of the nations where they work. Give them one more round of applause. So they will perform this ceremony. It's a brief one, after which I will make the concluding announcements for this. And as I said, I would appeal one more time that once we're done with this, I beg, please, whatever discussions we want to have, let's do it outside of this hall, because we'll have to turn this hall over in less than 2 hours to be ready for the dinner at 8 p.m. The dinner is 8 p.m. We would need to turn this around. So every discussions, every networking, every catching up, please, should be done around the foyer, the hotel main building, reception, wherever that is convenient for you, but not in the hall. Because once we rise now, we need this space to turn it around for the evening's dinner. And remember, tomorrow, the African Regional Meeting, all international delegates are invited, 8 to 10 inside the Congress Hall here in the morning. After that, we'll proceed to the closing ceremony. After that, to the tour of Abuja. After that, to a dinner sponsored by a terminal operator. And then to the movie later in the evening at 8, Lara and the Beats. History being made, not just for the collaboration, but for the fact that these two women, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, are doing their respective countries and citizens proud, and indeed claiming their stake amongst the league of eminent, patriotic, and resourceful citizens of the world. Congratulations, NPA. Congratulations, Guangzhou Port. And so, ladies and gentlemen, paparazzi, you covered my minister. My goodness. If when they go church at all, even mosque, I'm not sure when they go. Well, thank you very much, Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We have, of course, come to the end of Technical Sessions Day 2. As I said, tomorrow we will continue. It has been quite an exciting journey. Let's finish strong tomorrow, bright and early. We will have this dinner tonight. We'll have the orchestra to entertain you, the cultural troupe, a lot of music and dancing. Some of you saw me dancing just before we started the session after lunch. It is me getting ready, warming up for what will be a turn-up, as we call it, in the entertainment industry. Don't sit back, don't relax. You're out here to network, to enjoy, and of course to have fun. Allow us help you have fun later this evening. Richmond Osuji is my name. Arrivederci is the call. Abiento is the next one. See you later. Bye-bye. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for being here. Thank you. Please take your belongings. Take your belongings. There is a lost but found iPhone. There is a lost but found iPhone. Talk to me if you're missing your iPhone. Lost but found iPhone. And kindly take every networking and conversations outside of this hall now. The people responsible for turning this hall over, your job has started. Your job has started. The bosses that will take you back to your hotel will be waiting for you at the lobby of your hotel to bring you back to Congress Hall for the dinner at 8 p.m. So please, when they take you, kindly refresh. If you don't want to go and refresh, you can chill at the lobby of the hotel. Please, can we vacate this space now? Do all conversations, and the headsets, please leave them on the tables. The translation headsets, please leave them on the tables. Please do all your networking discussions outside of the Congress Hall, around the foyer, on the mezzanine, in the hotel's main building, reception and bar. We need to turn this place around now. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. The hotel staff and our technical crew are already on the bounce. Please exit the hall now. Thank you for understanding and kind cooperation.